spiritual awakening. Time never existed. The chosen one must understand this to change reality. They told you that time would heal all wounds. They told you to be patient, to wait, to endure. They promised you that if you just kept walking forward, eventually the future would bring you the peace you have been starving for. But what if they lied? What if the future you are desperately waiting for is not a destination on a map, but a frequency you are failing to tune into? What if the past that haunts you is not a memory carved in stone, but a living signal that you are keeping alive right now? What if time, as you know it, never actually existed? Imagine for a moment a man walking down an infinite, dimly lit corridor. The walls are not made of stone, they are made of mirrors, thousands of them, stretching endlessly into the darkness. As he walks, he looks into the glass. In one mirror, he sees a reflection of himself that looks tired. His eyes are hollow. He is broken, filled with regret, carrying the weight of 1,000 mistakes. He takes a step forward. In the next mirror, the reflection shifts. He looks slightly different, perhaps a bit older, perhaps a bit wiser. He keeps walking, mirror after mirror, believing he is moving forward through time. He believes he is leaving the sad version of himself behind. But then he stops. He looks at a mirror standing just a few feet away. In this reflection, he sees a version of himself that is radiant. He is awakened. He is free. He is powerful. He is living the life he has always silently screamed for in his dreams. Here is the terrifying truth. The man thinks he needs to walk years to become that awakened version. But in the quantum reality, he is not moving at all. The broken man, the healing man, the awakened man, all these versions are existing simultaneously in the corridor, right here, right now. The corridor is static. The mirrors are stationary. The only thing that is moving is his attention. The only thing that changes is which mirror he chooses to look into. This is not a poetic metaphor. This is not philosophy. This is quantum mechanics. If you have found this transmission, it is not an accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. Your vibration did. You are here because you have felt it. A glitch in the matrix. A persistent nagging feeling in the back of your mind that the world you see, the ticking clocks, the flipping calendars, the aging face in the mirror, is a facade. You may be experiencing what the ancients called the dark night of the soul. You feel lost. You feel stuck. You feel like you are waiting for a train that never arrives. But I am here to tell you, you are not depressed. You are waking up. You are the chosen one who is beginning to see the code behind the simulation. In this documentary, we are going to dismantle the greatest illusion ever constructed by the human mind, the illusion of linear time. We will dive deep into the laboratories of quantum physics to explore the double slit experiment. We will uncover the mind-bending reality of retro-causality, the scientific proof that your choices today can literally rewrite your past. Put down your logic. It cannot help you where we are going. Open your intuition. The clock is ticking, but time is standing still. Welcome to the Matrix 963. Chapter 1. The Persistent Illusion. From the moment we take our first breath, we are indoctrinated into the cult of Chronos. We are taught that time is a straight line, an arrow that flies from the bow of the past, pierces the fleeting moment of the present, and vanishes into the fog of the future. This is the Newtonian model of the universe. Isaac Newton, the father of classical physics, painted the cosmos as a giant, perfect clockwork machine. In this machine, everything is fixed. Everything is predictable. Everything is absolute. In Newton's world, a second is a second. A minute is a minute. It does not matter if you are happy or sad. It does not matter if you are in love or in pain. The clock on the wall ticks the same for everyone. It is an objective ruler that governs your life from birth to death. But ask yourself this: if time is so objective, why does it feel so unstable? Why does a minute of holding your hand on a hot stove feel like an hour? And why does an hour sitting with someone you love vanish like a second? Why does a day spent in fear drag on like a year, while a decade of happiness passes in the blink of an eye? Is it just psychology? Or is your consciousness detecting a deeper truth that your eyes cannot see? Neuroscience gives us the first clue to breaking the matrix. Your brain does not experience time. Your brain is a biological supercomputer processing energy. At every given nanosecond, your senses are bombarded with billions of bits of data: light, sound, temperature, vibration. If your brain processed all of this information at once, past, present, and future, you would be overwhelmed. You would be paralyzed. Imagine experiencing your birth, your first heartbreak, your greatest success, and your death, all in the exact same moment. You could not hunt, you could not eat, you could not survive. So, the brain evolved a filter. It takes this infinite, chaotic soup of electrical signals and organizes them into a sequence. It creates a before. It creates an after. It creates a narrative. But this narrative is a map. It is not the territory. The arrow of time is a convenient illusion created by the human brain to navigate a 3D reality. It is a survival mechanism, not a fundamental law of the universe. The past is simply a neural recording, a trace of memory stored in your synaptic web. The future is a simulation, a prediction engine running based on past data. The only thing that is physically, tangibly real is the now, the eternal now. But the cracks in the Newtonian illusion began to shatter over a century ago. Enter Albert Einstein. He looked at the clockwork universe and he saw the flaw. He proved that time is not a constant. It is not rigid. Time is relative. Einstein showed us that time is a fabric woven together with space that can be stretched, compressed, and twisted. He proved that gravity bends time, speed bends time. If you were to leave Earth and travel near the speed of light, you could return after what felt like a few years to you, only to find that centuries had passed on Earth. The arrow of time is not straight, it is curved. But Einstein went even further. He proposed a concept that terrifies the human ego, but liberates the human soul. It is called the block universe. Imagine for a moment that your life is a movie recorded on a DVD disc. When you hold that DVD in your hand, you are holding the entire story. The beginning of the movie exists on the inner track. The climax exists in the middle. The ending credits exist on the outer edge. They all exist simultaneously on the disc. The end is not waiting to happen. It is already there. Now imagine the characters inside the movie. To them, scene 1 happens, then scene 2, then scene 3. They feel suspense. They feel surprise. They cry because they don't know what is coming next. They experience the flow of time because they are trapped inside the playback mechanism. But to the observer holding the disc, the entire timeline is already complete. This is the block universe. In this view of physics, the past has not gone anywhere. It is still there, existing down the street of the fourth dimension. The future is not a void waiting to be filled. It is a landscape that is already built, waiting for you to walk into it. Einstein himself, upon the death of his dear friend Michel Besso, wrote a letter to the grieving family. He said, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Think about those words. A stubbornly persistent illusion. This sounds terrifying to the unawakened mind, doesn't it? If the movie is already filmed, are we just puppets? If the script is already written, do we have free will? Why struggle? Why try to change? Why pray? This is where the Matrix tries to trap you. It uses this half-truth to keep you passive. It wants you to believe that because you were poor in the past, you are destined to be poor forever. It wants you to believe that your trauma is a fixed scar on the DVD of your life. It wants you to believe that your future is just a logical, mathematical consequence of your mistakes. But the Newtonian model and even the Einsteinian model are incomplete. They explain the world of planets and stars. They explain the macro world, but they fail to explain the source of it all. They fail to explain you. They fail to explain consciousness. To find your true power, to find the loophole in the script, we must go deeper. We must go smaller. We must descend into the subatomic realm, down to the pixelated level of reality, where the laws of physics dissolve into magic, down to the quantum realm. Chapter 2: The Quantum Observer. Welcome to the quantum realm. Here, common sense does not apply. Here, logic breaks down. Here, particles, the building blocks of your body and your world, do not follow the rules of the clock. In the classical world, a tennis ball is either here or there. It cannot be in two places at once. But in the quantum world, things are different. Before a particle is observed, it does not exist as a solid object at a specific point in time and space. It exists as a wave of probability. It exists in a state called superposition. This means it is here, and it is there. It is spinning up, and it is spinning down. It is in the past, and it is in the future. It exists in an infinite sea of possibilities, suspended in a ghost-like state. Let's talk about the experiment that broke reality. The experiment that keeps materialist scientists awake at night. The double slit experiment. This is not just a physics test. This is the scientific proof of your spiritual nature. Scientists took tiny particles, photons, little packets of light, and fired them at a barrier with two slits cut into it. Behind the barrier, there was a screen to record where the particles landed. When they fired the photons without watching them, something impossible happened. The single photon didn't go through the left slit or the right slit like a bullet. It went through both slits at the same time. It acted like a wave of water. It rippled through both openings, interfered with itself, and created a pattern of many possibilities on the back screen. This proved that unobserved reality is just a cloud of potential. But then, the scientists decided to peek. They wanted to know, which path did it really take? So they placed a measuring device, a detector, next to the slits to observe the particle. And in that very moment of observation, the magic stopped. The moment the observer looked, the wave collapsed. The photon stopped acting like a ghost. It snapped into position. It became a solid particle. It went through only one slit. The interference pattern disappeared. The potential vanished. Reality became fixed. The particle behaved as if it knew it was being watched. The act of observation, the presence of consciousness, was the only variable that determined whether the particle was a wave of infinite possibility or a single solid event. Do you understand what this means for you? Do you understand the power that is sleeping in your chest right now? Science has confirmed that reality does not exist independent of you. The universe is not out there separate from you. You are the observer. Time does not flow like a river. Reality collapses frame by frame based on your focus. The moment you call the present is simply the intersection point where your consciousness connects with one specific potential frequency out of billions. Think about your life right now. Look at your hands. Look at your room. Look at your bank account. You think this is the only reality, but quantum physics tells us that right next to this version of you, there are infinite other versions existing in superposition. There is a version of you that made a different choice 5 years ago. There is a version of you that is completely healthy. There is a version of you that is wealthy, abundant, and free. There is a version of you that never met that person who broke your heart. These are not metaphors. These are not daydreams. These are real quantum timelines existing right now in the field, encoded as potential energy. They are like radio stations broadcasting in the air around you. Just because your radio is tuned to channel 96.3 doesn't mean channel 100.5 doesn't exist. It just means you're not playing its song. So why? Why are you stuck on this specific channel? Why does the past keep repeating itself? Why do you wake up every day and experience the same struggle, the same lack, the same time loop? Because you are observing it. Most people are sleepwalkers in the matrix. They wake up. They immediately remember who they are. They remember their problems. They remember their traumas. They check their phone. They look at the same mirror. They flood their brain with the same thoughts and the same emotions as yesterday. By doing this, they are acting as the observer that collapses the exact same quantum wave as the day before. They recreate their past and call it their future. They think they are victims of time. In truth, they are powerful creators who are stuck in a loop of their own observation. You do not create reality in time. You do not wait for the future. You select reality through vibration. Your identity, your core beliefs, your deep-seated emotions, these are the frequency tuners. When you realize this, the Hall of Mirrors stops being a prison and becomes a playground. You realize that you don't have to change the mirror. You don't have to break the glass. You just have to change the reflection. And you do that by changing the observer. But wait, the rabbit hole goes deeper. If you can collapse a wave in the present, can you collapse a wave that happened 10 years ago? If time is all happening at once, can your observation today reach back and rewrite the script of your childhood? Common sense says no, but quantum mechanics says yes. This brings us to the most mind-bending discovery of human history, the phenomenon known as retro-causality. Prepare yourself, because what we are about to discuss will challenge everything you think you know about your own history. Chapter 3: The Multiverse of You. We have established that your observation collapses reality. But a question remains, a question that haunts philosophers and physicists alike. When you choose to look at the particle and it snaps into position A, what happens to position B? What happens to the version of reality you did not choose? Does it simply vanish? Does it dissolve into nothingness? For decades, we thought the answer was yes. We thought the unchosen path was simply deleted from the universe. But in 1957, a physicist named Hugh Everett proposed a theory that was so radical, so terrifying to the establishment, that it was ignored for years. But today, it is considered one of the most likely explanations for our reality. It is called the many worlds interpretation. Everett suggested that the wave function never actually collapses. Instead, it branches. This means that every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, all of them happen. Each outcome causes the universe to split into a new, divergent branch. In one branch, the particle went left. In another branch, the particle went right. And because you, the chosen one, are made of these very particles, the implications are staggering. It means that you are not living in a single timeline. You're living in a multiverse of infinite variations. Think about the choices you have made in your life, the job you didn't take, the person you didn't marry, the risk you were too afraid to take. You look back at those moments with regret. You think of them as lost opportunities, dead ends, phantoms of what could have been. But quantum mechanics suggests they are not dead. They are real. In a parallel frequency of reality, right next to this one, there is a version of you who took the job. There is a version of you who said yes instead of no. There is a version of you who is living the consequences, both the beautiful and the tragic, of that alternate choice right now. Schrödinger's cat is not just a thought experiment. It is a description of your life. The cat is alive, and the cat is dead. You are wealthy, and you are poor. You are alone, and you are loved. All these states exist simultaneously in the vast, branching coral reef of the multiverse. So why are you here? Why are you experiencing this specific version of reality, with these specific limitations and this specific pain? Because this is the channel you are tuned into. Imagine your consciousness is a radio. The air around you is filled with hundreds of radio waves. BBC, NPR, jazz, rock, classical. They are all occupying the same space at the same time. They are all broadcasting right now. They are ghosting through each other. If your radio is tuned to 96.3, you hear the music of 96.3. You do not hear the others. But does that mean the other stations have ceased to exist? No. They are still singing. They are still playing. You simply cannot perceive them because your internal receiver is not resonating with their frequency. This is the secret of the matrix. You do not need to create the life of your dreams. You do not need to build it from scratch with blood, sweat, and tears. You simply need to tune into it. The version of you that is already awakened, the version of you that is the master of your reality, is not in the distant future. That version is broadcasting right now on a different frequency. The reason you cannot see it, the reason you cannot touch it, is because your beliefs, your emotions, and your trauma are locking your dial to the frequency of struggle. Regret is a waste of energy. Regret is simply the act of staring at the static of a channel you don't like, wishing it would play a different song. It won't. You have to turn the dial. You have to shift your state of being. When you shift your vibration, you literally shift into a parallel universe where that reality is the norm. You don't change the world. You move to a world that has already changed. Chapter 4. Quantum Entanglement. But if there are infinite versions of me and infinite timelines, am I alone? Am I isolated in my own little bubble of reality? How do my choices affect the people I love? How does my healing affect my ancestors? To answer this, we must look at the phenomenon that Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance. In the world of classical physics, objects must touch to affect each other. If I want to move a cup, I must push it. If I want to talk to you, I must send sound waves through the air. Space separates us. Distance is a barrier. But in the quantum realm, space is an illusion. This brings us to quantum entanglement. When two particles interact with each other, when they are created together or collide, they become entangled. They form a bond that transcends space and time. They effectively become one single object, sharing the same existence, even if they are separated by millions of miles. Scientists have proven this in laboratories. They take two entangled photons. They send one to a lab in Europe and the other to a satellite in space. When they measure the photon in Europe and force it to spin up, the photon in space instantly, faster than the speed of light, spins down. There is no signal sent between them. There is no time delay. It happens instantaneously. It is as if the two particles are not two separate things at all, but two ends of the same invisible thread. It proves that, at a fundamental level, the universe is non-local. Separation is a lie. Now apply this to your soul. If all matter was once entangled in the Big Bang, then everything in this universe is still connected. You are entangled with the stars. You are entangled with the earth. But most importantly, you are entangled with the people in your life, and you are entangled with your own past selves. Think about a traumatic memory from your childhood. You think that child is gone. You think that version of you is dead, buried in the graveyard of the past. But under the law of entanglement, that child is still alive. That child is an energetic particle that is entangled with the adult you are today. When you, in the present moment, feel pain, that child feels pain. When you feel shame, that child cowers in the dark. The connection has never been broken. But here is the beautiful news. This connection works both ways. Because you are entangled, when you heal yourself in the now, you send an instantaneous ripple through the web of time. When you forgive yourself today, you are not just making yourself feel better. You are transmitting a signal of liberation back to that child. You are literally changing the state of your past self. This explains why, when people undergo deep spiritual healing or shadow work, they often report that their memories change. They don't just feel differently about what happened, they remember it differently. The sharp edges of the trauma soften. The narrative shifts. They are not imagining this. They have utilized the spooky action at a distance to alter the spin of the entangled particle that is their past. You are not an isolated island floating in a river of time. You are a node in a vast, shimmering web of consciousness. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, vibrates the entire web. This is why your awakening is not selfish. When you wake up, when you raise your frequency, you pull everyone entangled with you up with you. You heal your lineage. You heal your past. You heal the future. But the web of time is even more flexible than this. We have talked about parallel worlds. We have talked about invisible connections. Now we must confront the final boss of linear time. We must confront the idea that the arrow of time can be turned around. Can a choice you make right now, in this chair, actually cause something to happen yesterday? Logic screams no. Cause must come before effect. You cannot bake a cake and then mix the batter. But quantum mechanics does not care about your logic. Chapter 5. Retro-causality. We have arrived at the edge of the rabbit hole. This is the concept that shatters the Newtonian worldview completely. Retro-causality, the idea that the future can influence the past. For centuries, science believed that the past determines the future. This is called causality. A leads to B, B leads to C. The past is the foundation, and the future is the house built on top of it. You cannot change the foundation once the house is built. But in the late 1970s, a brilliant physicist named John Wheeler proposed a variation of the double slit experiment that proved the foundation can be changed even after the house is finished. It is called the delayed choice experiment. Let's go back to our photons flying through the slits. Remember, if we don't look, they are waves. If we look, they are particles. In the original experiment, the detectors were placed at the slits. The decision to look was made before the particle hit the screen. But Wheeler asked a crazy question. What if we wait? What if we let the photon pass through the slits first? What if we let it travel through the open space and we decide whether to observe it or not at the very last nanosecond, right before it hits the back screen? By the time we make the decision, the photon has already passed the slits. It has already done what it was going to do, either be a wave or a particle. The past is already written. So logically, our decision in the present shouldn't matter. It's too late. But when they ran the experiment, the universe broke. They found that if they decided to observe the photon at the very last second, the photon arrived as a particle. It acted as if it had gone through only one slit in the past. But if they decided not to observe it at the last second, the photon arrived as a wave. It acted as if it had gone through both slits in the past. Do you see the paradox? The decision made in the present determined which path the particle took in the past. The photon did not commit to a history until the choice was made in the future. It traveled through the slits in a cloud of undefined potential, waiting for the observer to decide what its history should be. This means the past is not fixed. The past is a cloud of probability that stays undefined until a choice in the present collapses it into a story. Wheeler illustrated this with a cosmic-scale thought experiment. He imagined light coming from a distant quasar, a star billions of light years away. This light has been traveling toward Earth since before the dinosaurs. In its path, there is a galaxy that acts as a gravitational lens, giving the light two possible paths to reach Earth, path A or path B. According to the delayed choice logic, the light has been traveling for billions of years in a superposition of taking both paths. When an astronomer on Earth tonight points his telescope at that star and decides how to measure the light, that astronomer right now determines which path the light took billions of years ago. An action in 2024 creates the history of a photon in the Jurassic period. This is the power of the observer. This is the power of you. Now bring this back to your life. Bring this back to your trauma. Bring this back to your identity. You think your past is a solid block of concrete that defines who you are. You say, I am anxious because I was abandoned. I am poor because I failed. I am unworthy because I was abused. You are using linear causality. You are letting the past define the present. But you are a quantum being. You have the power of retro-causality. The events of your life, the abuse, the failures, the heartbreaks, are like the photons passing through the slits. They happened, yes, but the meaning of them, the effect of them, and the energetic imprint of them are not fixed. They are waiting for you, in the present moment, to make a delayed choice. Every time you look back at your past with shame, guilt, or victimization, you are collapsing the wave into a particle of pain. You are confirming that the past was a tragedy. You are solidifying that history. But if you choose to look back at the same event with a different frequency, everything changes. If you look back at the heartbreak, not as a rejection, but as the moment you learn to love yourself, you rewrite the history. If you look back at the failure, not as a proof of incompetence, but as the necessary lesson that built your resilience, you alter the trajectory of the photon. You are not just reframing it psychologically. In the quantum field, you are literally changing the resonance of the event. You are reaching back in time and stripping the trauma of its power. You are turning the particle of pain back into a wave of wisdom. This is why the Chosen One does not run from the past. The Chosen One turns around and faces it. Because you realize that the past is not a prison. It is a library of unwritten books, and you hold the pen. You can sit in meditation today, generate a feeling of intense gratitude and love, and broadcast that signal backward. You can hold your younger self in your arms across the ocean of time and tell them, it is okay, we made it, we are safe. And in that moment of entanglement and retro-causality, the timeline shifts, the heavy chain of karma shatters. The universe does not know time. The universe only knows vibration. And since vibration can be changed in the now, the past is never closed. This is the key to escaping the matrix. The matrix relies on you believing that you are a product of your history. It wants you to think you are a victim of cause and effect. But when you understand retro-causality, you become the cause, and the history becomes the effect. You are not defined by what happened to you. What happened to you is defined by who you choose to be right now. But knowing this is one thing. Doing it, living it, requires a complete rewiring of your biological machine. Because even if your spirit understands that time is an illusion, your body is still addicted to the clock. Your biology is still trapped in the loop. To truly break free, we must leave the realm of physics and enter the realm of neuroscience. We must understand how your memory actually works and why your body fights so hard to keep the old timeline alive. In the next chapter, we will open the black box of the human brain. We will discover why you are addicted to your own suffering and how to hack your nervous system to finally let the new timeline in. The physics is the map, but the biology is the territory, and we are about to conquer it. Chapter 6: The Holographic Universe. We have explored the illusion of time, the power of observation, and the flexibility of the past. But there is one final layer of reality we must peel back before we can truly understand how to operate this machine called life. We must understand the structure of the matrix itself. For thousands of years, mystics have said, "As above, so below." They claimed that the entire universe is contained within a grain of sand. Today, theoretical physics calls this the holographic principle. Look at the world around you. It looks solid. It feels real. The chair you sit on, the walls of your house, your own body. They seem like dense, physical matter. But if you take a microscope and zoom into your hand, you see cells. Zoom deeper, you see molecules. Deeper still, atoms. And when you look inside the atom, what do you find? Do you find tiny solid balls of matter? No. You find empty space. 99.99999% of an atom is empty void. The tiny particles inside, electrons, quarks, are not things. They are merely vibrations of energy. They are fluctuations in a field. This means that the physical world is an illusion. It is a trick of the light. The holographic principle suggests that our three-dimensional reality is actually a projection of information stored on a two-dimensional surface at the edge of the universe. Just like a hologram on a credit card looks 3D, but is actually flat, our entire universe is a 3D projection of 2D data. Think of it like a movie theater. When you watch a movie, you see characters moving, loving, fighting on the screen. It looks like a real world. But if you try to touch the screen, you only touch a flat surface. The reality of the movie is not on the screen. The reality comes from the film reel in the back of the room, being pushed through the light of the projector. Here is the secret. You are not the character on the screen. You are not the body moving through the illusion of solid matter. You are the projector. Your consciousness is the light, and your beliefs, your memories, and your subconscious programming are the film reel. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change the movie by screaming at the screen. They try to change their financial situation by working harder physically. They try to change their relationships by forcing others to behave differently. They try to clean the mirror to change the reflection. This is why they fail. This is why they are exhausted. You cannot change the projection by manipulating the reflection. To change the movie, you must go back to the projection room. You must change the film reel. The film reel is your internal data. It is the energetic signature you broadcast into the quantum field every single second. If your internal data says, "I am unworthy," the holographic universe has no choice but to project a 3D reality where you are rejected, ignored, and undervalued. It is not punishing you. It is simply displaying your data. If your internal data says, "I am abundant," the hologram will rearrange itself through synchronicities, opportunities, and luck to mirror that abundance back to you. Time in this model is simply the frame rate of the projector. It is the speed at which you are processing data. When you change the data, you change the timeline. You switch to a different movie entirely. But if we are the projectors, and if we have the power to change the film, why is it so hard? Why do we keep playing the same tragic scene over and over again? Why does the past keep reprojecting itself into our future? The answer lies not in the stars, but in the wires of your own machine. We must leave the cosmos and enter the biology. We must talk about the addiction of the human brain. Chapter 7: The Neuroscience of Memory. You might think you are a free agent, making new choices every day. But neuroscience tells a humble and slightly terrifying story. According to research, by the time you are 35 years old, 95% of who you are is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, and hardwired attitudes that function like a computer program. This means that 95% of the day you are on autopilot. You are not living in the present, you are living in the past. Let's look at how memory works. When you remember a past event, say a painful breakup, you think you are simply retrieving a file from a cabinet, looking at it, and putting it back. But that is not what happens. When you recall a memory, you are reconstructing it. You are activating the exact same neural networks that fired when the event originally happened. But more importantly, your brain signals your body to produce the exact same chemicals. If the memory is sad, your brain manufactures the chemicals of sadness. If it was traumatic, your brain dumps cortisol and adrenaline into your blood. Here is the catch. Your body is the unconscious mind. It does not know the difference between an experience happening in real life and an experience happening only in your thought. To your body, the breakup is happening again, right now. So, you think about the past. Your body feels the emotion. The emotion then signals the brain to think more thoughts equal to that emotion, which produces more chemicals, which creates more thoughts. You enter a feedback loop, a loop of thinking and feeling and thinking. Over time, this loop conditions the body to become addicted to those chemicals. You literally become addicted to your own suffering. You become addicted to the rush of adrenaline from your anxiety. You become addicted to the heavy feeling of depression. This is the refractory period. It is the biological anchor that keeps you stuck in the old timeline. You wake up in the morning. You want to change. You want to be happy. But your body, which has been conditioned to be a victim for the last 10 years, starts craving its fix. It says to the brain, "Where is my suffering? Where is my anxiety? I need it to feel normal." So the body influences the mind to look for problems. You start worrying about the future. You start judging yourself. You start replaying the old movies, not because you want to, but because your body needs the chemical hit. This is why time seems to repeat itself. It is not the universe punishing you. It is your own biology rerunning the same program. Every time you react to your reality with the same old emotions, you are collapsing the same quantum wave. You are telling the holographic universe, "This is who I am. Keep playing this movie." To break the illusion of time, you must break this addiction. You must learn to be greater than your body. You must learn to feel an emotion before the experience happens. This is the art of re-encoding. In the quantum model, if you want to heal a past trauma, you don't ignore it, you recall it. But this time, you refuse to react with the old chemicals. You sit with the memory, but you bring a new frequency to it. You bring the frequency of compassion, of understanding, of forgiveness. You look at that younger version of yourself, and instead of feeling shame, you feel love. In that moment, you are breaking the neural link. You are pruning the old synaptic connection and sprouting a new one. You are literally rewiring your brain. As you do this, the chemical signature of your body changes. You liberate the energy that was trapped in the past. And when you liberate the energy, you liberate the timeline. You stop being the victim of your history, and you become the master of your destiny. When the internal data changes, the external hologram must change. It is the law. Chapter 8: Timeline Jumping. Now that we understand the physics of the multiverse and the biology of our addiction, we are ready for the final step, the shift, the jump. What does it actually mean to jump timelines? It does not mean you will disappear and wake up in a different body, although in a way you do. It means you shift your dominant vibration so radically that you become invisible to the old reality and compatible with a new one. In the game of the Matrix, think of realities as servers. There is a server where you are struggling. The physics of that server are heavy. Things move slowly. Obstacles are everywhere. Gravity is strong. This is the server of low vibration, fear, shame, anger. But right next to it, there is a high-frequency server. In this reality, things are light. Synchronicity happens instantly. The right people show up. Time feels elastic and fluid. This is the server of high vibration, gratitude, love, presence. You cannot access the high server while you are running the software of the low server. The password is incorrect. To jump timelines, you must achieve a state called heart-brain coherence. Scientists have discovered that the heart generates an electromagnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the brain. When you are in stress, your heart rhythm is jagged and chaotic. Your field shrinks. You are in survival mode. You are trapped in linear time. But when you focus on your heart and generate an elevated emotion like gratitude or care, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and orderly. Your brain waves synchronize with your heart. In this state of coherence, your electromagnetic field expands up to 3 meters wide. You become a broadcasting tower. You stop waiting for the future. You begin to pull the future towards you. When you enter this state, you might experience physical symptoms of the timeline shift. You might feel dizzy. You might feel a sudden disconnect from your old friends and hobbies. They just don't resonate anymore. You might lose track of time completely. An hour feels like a minute. These are signs that you are unplugging from the old causality. You are no longer reacting to the world. The world is beginning to react to you. And here is the most beautiful part of timeline jumping. You do not have to fix the problems of the old timeline. If you are on a train going to a destination you don't like, you don't try to fix the engine or repaint the walls of the train. You simply get off at the next station and catch a different train going to where you want to go. When you shift your frequency, the old problems often don't get solved in a logical way. They simply dissolve. They stop being relevant. They fall out of your vibration because they can no longer exist in your new atmosphere. The toxic relationship ends peacefully. The health issue fades away. The financial block clears up. You have moved to a parallel reality where those problems never existed in the first place. This is the power of the chosen one. You do not fight the darkness. You simply turn on the light. Chapter 9. The Eternal Now. We have traveled from the mirrors of the illusion, through the quantum slits, back to the birth of the cosmos, and deep into the neurons of your own brain. And now we arrive back where we started. We arrive at the only place that ever existed, the now. Everything we have discussed, the multiverse, the hologram, the retro-causality, it all converges in this single, breathless moment. You are standing at the crossroads of infinity. Behind you lies the infinite versions of your past. To your left and right lie the infinite versions of your parallel lives. Ahead of you lie the infinite versions of your future. And you, the observer, the consciousness, you are the center point. You are the axis upon which the wheel of time turns. The Matrix wants you to think you are small. It wants you to think you are a dust mote floating in a river of time, helpless against the current. But the science shows the opposite. You are the river. You are the current. And you are the one who directs the flow. Time never existed as a prison. It existed as a school. It was designed to give you the illusion of separation so that you could rediscover your unity. It was designed to give you the illusion of limitation so that you could rediscover your power. You are not a body with a soul. You are a soul that has built a body to experience the density of time. And now, the lesson is complete. The class is dismissed. You have the knowledge. You have the tools. You know that the past is fluid. You know that the future is chosen. You know that the present is the control panel. So the final question is not, when will my life change? The final question is, who do I choose to be right now? Do not wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lie. Do not wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is a construct. There is only this breath and this heartbeat. In this breath, you can forgive. In this breath, you can choose abundance. In this breath, you can declare your freedom. Conclusion. The illusion of time is persistent, but it is fragile. It shatters the moment you decide to wake up. As you go forward from this video, you will see the world differently. When you look at a clock, realize it is just a tool, not a master. When you look in the mirror, see the observer, not the reflection. When memories of pain arise, treat them as old film reels that you have the power to burn or rewrite. You are the architect of reality. You are the writer, the director, and the star of your own movie. And the camera is always rolling. Take a deep breath, anchor yourself in this frequency, and claim your power. If you are ready to leave the old timeline behind and step into your true power, leave a comment below. Write, "I choose my light." Do not write it as just words. Write it as a decree. Write it as a spell. Let that comment be the physical anchor that collapses this new timeline into your reality. Join the thousands of others in this community who are waking up. You are not alone. The grid is lighting up. But remember, knowing that time is an illusion is only the first step. Knowing how to use this power to attract what you want, wealth, love, health, without struggle, that is the next level of mastery. There is a secret law that governs how the observer pulls desires from the quantum field. It is not about trying harder. It is about the paradox of effortless power. In the next transmission from the Matrix 963, we will unlock the quantum attraction secret. We will reveal why trying pushes your dreams away and how being pulls them in. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You do not want to miss the next shift. The awakening has just begun. Welcome home, chosen one.